Welcome back to the 19th hole. Jake Parry here, joined by Mike and Keith. We are here this week to recap the 3M Open and look forward to the Rocket Classic. But before we do that, have to give the standard shout out. I couldn't come up with a creative segue this week for it, so we're just going to jump right into the IBT Golf family. The Golf family is our brand new way to gain access to chatting with our analysts, memorabilia giveaways, as well as our full betting cards. For free, you can get access to those chats, memorabilia giveaways, things like our PGA One and Done contest, and our upgraded membership for $3.99 a month or $36 for the year gets you full access to our weekly betting cards as well as our weekly betting model. Last week, we hit another outright, so we were sitting well over 150 units in the positive this year. So continuing to have really great things happening on that front. And with the golf season coming to a bit of a close comparatively, we've got football right around the corner. This gains you access to the football family as well as the racing and entertainment families as well. So make sure you do not forget to join if you're interested in joining for free. It is at in-betweenmedia.com/chat or with the link in the episode description. But with that being said, let's get ready to talk about the young superstar, Jackson Koivun. I think it's fair to say that Koivun cannot and will not be denied, guys. I mean, this is his 7th win of the year. First event for money. The rest were college event wins, but still winning 7 times at anything in a single year is pretty darn good. And that was,
as I say, let's not dismiss collegiate wins because I don't think any of us are going to go out there and tee it up and be able to win a college event.
Not to mention that, I mean, we have a ton
Jake's
of
like, speak for yourself, Keith. I could.
Nope, I couldn't. Nope, wouldn't make the cut. Wouldn't make the team at this point, more than likely. But, I mean, that was an incredible event to watch. I know, Mike, that's your hometown event, essentially. That's very local to you. What was it like seeing some of that stuff in person, and what was the event like as a whole?
Good. Great place to start. It is the hometown open for a Twin Cities boy. Now, first of all, the 3M is played in Blaine, Minnesota. Now, you guys are not Twin Cities aficionados. This is about 45 minutes north of Minneapolis. And like, if you live anywhere else in the country, when you say Blaine, Minnesota, all you can think is Plain, Minnesota. And this golf course was created like 20 years ago for the purpose of building the infrastructure for Minneapolis and the greater area to get PGA Tour events. And so it really is the only place that can handle it. But gosh, like, there is nothing around there. It's a big time blue collar outer ring suburb. Like, I would even classify.
So where are the people coming from to watch the event?
Everywhere. I mean, I came from I live like, really close to Minneapolis, and people are telling me they're coming from all over the state to come watch.
Okay.
Like this isn't, when you go to Hazeltine is much closer to the metropolitan area, but it's, one thing that Blaine has is it has the National Sports Center, attracts tons of youth sports. So they have just a lot of infrastructure to host
like hotels,
big
and
sporting events,
rooms,
hotels, parkings, shuttle services. Like, all of this was done to attract big sports to the Minneapolis area. It just happens to be 40 miles from Minneapolis proper. That being said, the golf course is completely forgettable. We don't have to, you guys probably talked a lot about this last week. Like, this is bottom rung of TPC courses. But the one thing I will say, and I said this on a number of different social media outlets, Midwesterners, Jake, you included, are starved for really good golf. And we talk about this at the John Deere Classic. We talk about this on the rare chance that we get big time professional golf in Illinois and in Wisconsin and in Minnesota. People show up. The atmosphere was incredible, and I thought it was super cool to see all our big favorite follows on X or wherever you're looking, people talking about how just electric the atmosphere was. And it was, people show out and they hang out all day and they're
Did you hear the ratings number?
I didn't hear it. No, it's probably
over
garbage.
3 million viewers, over 100% increase from the previous year.
The Scotty effect is real. But I just want to give a shout out that, like, when you put a golf tournament in a place that has really good support for professional golf, good things happen. And I'm really hoping for, and you think about the juxtaposition with like the US Open at Los Angeles Country Club, where we all panned the folks that were going out. It was heavily corporate and there's no vibe and you can't get to see the golf. This is the kind of stuff that I hope the PGA Tour like really, really thinks about and works with their sponsors. 3M's got to come up with the money, but if they can come up with a way to keep this on the championship tour, it can be a really good environment. I don't know if that's going to happen given what they want to do with that series of events, but it can be a really good environment. I spent most of the day out there on Saturday. I had my family out, my wife and my 3 kids. My younger two, we stayed out till about 4:00 in the afternoon. We saw all of Scott. We're there for all of Scotty's round. I saw about 15 golf shots, period. This is the life of a dad at a professional golf tournament. I watched them play every single kid interaction over and over and over again. And we watched Scotty hit his opening tee shot.
You took your kids to the golf tournament? Are you crazy, Mike?
I do every year, man. It's awesome. It's such a cool way to get them bought in. 8, 5, and 4.
You are doing the Lord's work, my friend.
My 5 and 4-year-old, I mean, I said we were out there for 7 hours almost. But they that's the other thing too. You talk about the John Deere, they do a really good job with the fans. There's lots of interactions and things to do besides standing and watching golf. And they love Scotty Scheffler. Like, they've been watching Scotty Scheffler for the last 3 years on TV. So we hung out right between the exit of the putting green to the first tee. It's a very short distance, 50 feet max. And we right where they would put the ropes, where they moved them to create the crosswalk. And we stood right there and they all stuck their hand out to get a high five.
They got a bunch of daps.
And he walked right by everybody.
Oh,
the least likable guy on tour.
He was locked in.
He was locked in. That's how it works. I'm sure these guys have a switch. They say, I pick up my ball on the putting green. I lock in for that first tee shot. He gave a little smirk in our direction, but no high five. But it was a cool moment just to kind of see him up close for a handful of shots.
He's big, right? Overall, like, it's kind of shocking. Like he's but I mean, just a big dude in general. Like, he's a large man.
I'll give you guys 2 more tidbits, and then we can get into. I know you want to talk about Jackson, but I got to get all this off my chest. Everybody in person, even the blondest of players, everyone's skin is so leathery and so tan. You start to realize, like, God, these guys spend all day in the sun.
Like, you see people take their hats off and stuff, which is just amazing. They all have like the real hard brim line.
Yeah, caught Gary Woodland coming out of the bathroom right by the first tee, and he just walking through the crowd. And I was just like, man, you have spent a lot of time in the sun. Half the guys wear metal spikes. I forget this. Half the guys wear metal spikes.
I was shocked when Glover said that. Like, shocked.
Sneaker style golf. Woodland's walking out in Pumas, which I could have told you were running shoes, and it's click, 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 click.
Wow.
So they're even retrofitting the sneaker style shoes with metal spikes, which I thought is really fascinating. And the last thing I'll say is I watched Lee Hodges hit bunker shots on the practice green, and if you think you're opening the face in your bunker shots, you're not opening the face. These guys look like they're going to hit the ball with the hosel straight away. That's how open it is. And every shot is pure and it spins. And I went immediately to the golf course the next day, and I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to hit bunker shots again.
I was hoping you were going to say, like, after he hit a so-so bunker shot, you went, hey, man, Lee, this is what I see here. Okay, put that ball a little bit more forward in your stance. Make sure you accelerate. Okay, you got to.
He couldn't have hit 3 better shots. He had his AirPods in. I think you don't see those things until you stand up close to these guys and just take the time to watch.
The sound of the ball is always my favorite thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it sounds so much different than anything you hear at your local golf course. No offense to the best players there, but it's just like that thud that they make is insane.
At our IBT scramble this week, I played pretty well, and I hit a couple shots where Seth was like, dude, it just sounds different. I was like, dude, it sounds nothing like even like I would consider myself a solid player. I don't sound like a good player. They don't sound like great players. And the best players, sound nothing like the worst guy on the PGA Tour.
Someone, I think it was, I don't know if it was, shoot, I don't know who said this on Twitter the other day, but they did like a fill in the blank. They said 95% of golfers don't know blank. And, my response was, they do not know the astronomical difference between the best player at your club and the worst player on PGA Tour Americas. The worst, you don't know. You don't know. It's just like
also how bad the average golfer is. Like, how many people think that, like, I'm serious. Like, they're like, I'm the worst golfer alive. And I'm like, no, you're not. Like, go play in my men's group. I promise you. Like, there's much worse.
That if you can legitimately break 100, counting all strokes properly, you are mathematically in the top 1% of all golfers on the planet.
Yeah. I mean, you get the ball airborne and you've got like 20% of the.
Speaking of getting it airborne, though, I mean, Jake, I know you're itching to talk about Jackson here. Barely got it airborne on 18 to close out his win.
Nice draw kick.
He did it. He got it done. And you can afford to have 1 or 2 bad shots like that when you have 9.5 strokes that you've gained on approach throughout the week. You can afford to not have the best ones every once in a while.
We've talked about a lot on the show how you need to swing your swing, and the number of guys we've seen this year. Ryan Fox coming to mind recently. Swing your swing. Koivun is almost not on the ground when he makes impact.
Yeah, it's the thing that I like would incorporate into my golf swing if I could, but every time I like try and think of using the ground in the way that some of these guys do, I am legitimately just jumping and throwing my hands and praying contact is made. And then I'm immediately like, nope, going away from that. I do not know how some of these players do what they do. Like, I don't understand how Ryan Fox can turn through a golf ball. I don't understand how everything he hits is not a banana slice. I don't understand how Matt Fitzpatrick over the last year and a half was just suddenly like, I'm going to end my driver shots basically staring at the hole after that's something I've never done in my professional career. Like, I don't get how some players can do this. And it is down to like physical skill at a point, but Koivun actually had a really good quote that came out, and he was basically saying like, when I'm out there on the range with these guys, like, I never feel like I'm the most talented player out there. I never feel like I'm the best guy at the driving range. I never feel like I'm the best player there. But when I get on the course, I'm smart enough and know what my swing well enough and what I'm doing well enough to know how to recover from anything that doesn't go perfectly. And Mike, we've talked about this where it's like, we wish we had a way to conceivably like add a dog factor into our models where we're like, this guy's just a dog. And like, we've spitballed some ideas, but like, that's the thing that he has that just separates him from so many players is like, yes, the physical talent, as we've talked about, between all of us on our best day put together and him is astronomical, but he's just got the mentality of like, okay, that didn't work out perfectly, but I know how to get myself into a good spot from here. I know how to recover from that. And I think just stuff like that and hearing something like that from a 21-year-old is wild. When there are guys on tour.
He's full of shit, though. I'm sorry. You are not a player of Jackson Koivun's pedigree, who has won like at every freaking level at a rate that, I mean, anybody not named like Tiger or Jack would kill for. And you have me believing he doesn't think he's the best golfer on a driving range. Like, I don't buy that. The confidence that he just oozes is remarkable. And I just like, I told y'all I saw him at 12 years old. Will never forget seeing him play in that golf tournament and just being like, I mean, that kid's an alien. Like, what did I just see? And then for him to, well, I mean, this is his third, like, really, it's his third start, already having a PGA Tour win. And then just the way he did it, you go out and shoot 61 Saturday with a 28 on the back. And what's like one of the hardest things in golf? To follow up a nuclear round. Because it's there is a lot of luck involved in this game, even for those guys, where a bounce here or an inch there and a 61 becomes 65. But for him to then shoot bogey-free 67 with Scotty Scheffler chasing you down and the crowd, as he admitted,
Scotty's coming.
Yeah, like, I mean, like the boogeyman or Jason or something. And he never blinked. He never even like looked like the tournament was going to get out of his grasp. Like, he's the real deal. And it's for me, it's the putting on top of what you're talking about, because you're absolutely right. Like, he's a special talent, ball striking tee to green, like the move he can make. But what has been missing, like, honestly, since Tiger, is the great golfers have not been elite putters. Like Scheffler, not an elite putter. Rory, not an elite putter. Like, guys that just week in and week out, they are going to roll the rock. I'm telling you, this kid, like, if you look at his number,
have the game to do everything else.
Exactly. And then, like you said, that dog in him on top of everything else. Like, I think he's very special. I understand the people that are like, okay, how often are you guys going to nerd out and want to throw all this love to a young kid that, wins a golf tournament? But
every time I can.
Well, fair enough. But this one's different. Like, he is the most talented player to come on tour in a long time, like probably since Rory, to be fair. And for him to win this quickly, like, I am so excited to see like what's next for him.
We said it on the show last week where we were like, it's not going to be long before we don't even get like 30-1 Jackson in events.
A week later.
Oh. Yeah, a week later. There you go. Speaking of odds, things hurt in the gallery. I did, unfortunately, I found myself standing next to a couple of I'll say misinformed golf fans on Saturday. We decided to go post up on 18 and right up by the green and watch Scotty and a handful of groups come in. And of course, like, I had one guy that his wife was telling him to stop using the F word so much. My 5- and 4-year-old right by my hip. And he's like, whatever. He's like, I don't use it at work, but I can certainly use it here. And he just kept at it. And I don't pick fights like this in public, so I did not go after him. But whoever the guys he was with, they started telling me about, Scotty's coming, and Scotty put together this fantastic back nine on Saturday. Shoots 29 on the back on Saturday to get back into contention at the time. And, one of the guys leans over and he goes, yeah, well, Scotty was my pick this week. So, feel
way to go on a limb
that.
there, bud.
And I was like, okay. And he's like, well, he's kind of a dark horse this year. And I was like, well, I said, frankly, Scotty has been, 2x the odds of half the odds of the nearest person every single week this year.
It's been the betting favorite for at least 3 years.
Yeah, I was like, that's not really a dark horse. Like, oh, but he hasn't won. I just was like, oh my God. And I realized I'm in this echo chamber of people who are around the betting world. But you don't get to pick Scotty Scheffler and then brag about him being
right.
Please tell me that you said, hey, we have a show. It would do you a lot of good.
I was
check
trying
it out
to
every once in a
distance
while.
myself from this group of people.
That's fair.
Understandable. But yes, very amazing performance by Jackson Koivun. Can he do it again? Can he run it back with another win? Let's talk about it. But before that, we got to break down Detroit Golf Club. So let's get these caddy notes ready and start talking about the course. We get Detroit Golf Club yet again, but it's going to look a little bit different this year. And Mike, I'm kicking it over to you at this point. Tell the people what to know about Detroit Golf Club and what are some of the changes that have been made for this year. It's last year.
As I say, it's so hard to say goodbye.
We're sending it out. First of all, I love to make this joke every year. Detroit Golf Club, not to be confused with Detroit Country Club, which is at a site I'll be playing a tournament at in a couple of weeks here, which is not in Detroit or a country club, which is fascinating. And I always
Jerry Seinfeld. What's the deal?
What is the deal? What makes a golf club or a country club?
Where is Detroit? Where is it located? Now you got me curious.
Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, and it is a public golf course that is called Detroit Country Club.
There's a lot of places in Illinois that do that too. They call themselves country club, and I'm like,
they've seen Caddyshack one too many times.
Exactly. So Detroit Golf Club in Detroit proper, Michigan. I don't think they have a pool, and I don't think they have tennis. I think that's why it is Detroit Golf Club. But this now will be a 7,300 yard par 70, no longer a par 72, since it has been renovated, a $16 million renovation in the last year here or so to restore the Detroit Golf Club back to its Donald Ross roots. And this obviously is a very popular trend right now with courses of this vintage, in particular the Ross courses. You're ending up with a number of architects that are becoming Ross restoration specialists, Andrew Green, Gil Hanse, and it generally features the same type of changes to the golf course. We're going to make the greens a little more pronounced. We're going to enlarge them. We're going to raise them up a little bit. We're going to give them, more undulation and more quadrants. And then we are going to
restoring to the original
which I still, and I've played a number of Donald Ross restorations,
Ross's roots,
that I cannot. To me, Ross, and I'm not the architecture snob, but Ross was always like the really heavily crowned or turtleback greens. They've gone to a lot of these just kind of not punch bowly, but like swales and spines. And think of what we saw at Aronimink. Like I have a hard time believing that was popular in that vintage, but I probably have more study.
There's 5 Ross courses like within 20 miles of my house. One of them I belong to. It's one of the 4 clubs as part of my membership. They're exactly what you're talking about. More crown greens are either, back to front and
or back to front. Yeah, which was certainly Interlaken here locally in the Minneapolis area was a very much back to front course until Andrew Green came in, and now it's not goofy golf, but it is just it's very true. So you're going to get some of that here. The other thing that happens in these Donald Ross restorations is they try to create more interest off the tee. And that's probably the biggest change that you're going to see with Detroit Golf Club. We are used to this as the bomber's paradise. Load up on your Cameron Davises and your Bryson DeChambeaus. You can hit it as far offline as you want, and you won't really find yourself in trouble. And when the restorations come in, they try to create at least more visual choice, more pinch points with bunkers that are angling in off of fairways and fairways that snake left and right.
They make them deeper too, right? The bunkers, so that way if you go into them, you can't wedge it to the green, or like you need
to deeper, more penal. And so you're just trying to create more choice. And I think ultimately, and then obviously from when you change the golf course from a par 72 to a par 70 and you lengthen it a little bit, you're going to get some longer par 4s. So now we do end up with 4 par 4s over 500 yards. You have a par 5 that's going to be touching close to 650, but it's still got a number of par 4s that are going to play in like that 350 range. And so, basically my bottom line is like the restoration looks awesome. It looks really, really cool. I'm not sure that the score at this tournament is going to change. I don't know that I think it's still going to be a birdie fest. I think it might invite some slightly different profiles of players that are going to go take advantage of it. But I still think you're expecting to see a winner that's more than 20 under par. And I don't know that, and I think this happens is like, we think that restoring these old style golf courses is going to wreak havoc on the players, and it doesn't. It doesn't. So don't expect to see this as single digit. I do think birdies are going to be important here. It's just going to be a slightly different style of play.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm kind of leaning the same way. I recognize the changes and I recognize where it is going to impact certain players. As you mentioned, it gives you more variety. So like if your previous option was I just have to hit it as far as I can because that's the only way to compete in this tournament. And now players are a little bit more penalized for hitting it a little bit more offline, and I'm not as penalized because this is a landing area that I can now take advantage of or something that could be beneficial for me. It's still going to create scoring opportunities. They're just going to look different. Like you said, it's not bomb and gouge all the way. There's still plenty of holes where you can bomb and gouge here, right? Like it's bluegrass rough. It's not the most difficult thing in the world. A lot of these guys have played on it enough at this point that you know how to deal with it. These are, half Poana, half bent grass greens. Guys know how to play on these surfaces. The course as a whole is like fairly average. It's on the longer side for the PGA Tour, but it's like on the short side of long. The fairways are like right middle average width wise. The green sizes are like right in the middle size wise. The greens are going to be rolling at like a 12, not even factoring in all of the rain and the weather the Midwest is dealing with right now, which could make them play even softer and slower. Like there's still going to be plenty of scoring chances to be had here. And I still think par 5 scoring is important here because now it's even, to me, it's even more pertinent that you take advantage of the par 5s when you get the chance to, because there's 2 less, in theory, birdie holes on the course.
I mean, I guess I'm going to have to be the grandpa, but I do think it's going to make a difference. Like, I just think from a mentality standpoint, when you take 2 gimme par 5s, which is what the holes were that they convert, basically they just slapped a par 4 sticker over the par 5. So you go from a gimme par, 5 to a 515 and 530 yard par 4. I do think that affects like momentum and stuff in rounds where players are trying to get going. Go ahead.
It does, it's a good point. I said you see a 20 under winner, but when you remove basically 8 par strokes from the score to par, or the score to par might be different. The raw score at the end of the day might be similar. But the score to par, you're right.
And I think the stats in a lot of ways are going to be similar. Like that's what I've been telling people. Like it's a great debate in general of what really is a number, right? Like we get so obsessed with par 5s and par 4s. And if it's a birdie or if it's at the end of the day, it doesn't freaking matter. There's a winning score.
It's
like that's it.
It's like the course at I think it's Texas Tech University's golf course. The course that they play on all the time and they practice on doesn't have numbers on the holes.
Love it.
And the philosophy is your job is to just play this course in as few shots as possible. I don't care how you do it.
Yeah.
A 58 is a 58, a 66 is a 66. And like, yes, in some tournaments that's 6 under, and some that's 4 under. But at the end of the day,
do you think that Mike Kim needs to turn his 59 back into the PGA Tour because he shot on a 71 and not a 72?
God, that was such a big argument on Twitter. And it's I've seen the argument about that recently. In one of the recent good videos, one of the guys made a hole-in-one on a par 4, but people are saying like the graphic said it was playing 235 yards. So like, is it really a par 4? And it's like, well, yeah, it's what the course said it is. Like whatever.
It's a hole-in-one either way. So
right.
Who gives a shit?
He hit a massive hook with a 4 hybrid, 235 yards, and it rolled 60 feet on the green into the hole. It's an impressive shot, regardless of what it arbitrarily is called. And yeah, no, he doesn't have to turn it in.
Remember, people, Twitter is not real life. So like these arguments are, you know what I'm saying? There's people that I think they just either enjoy that or they make money off of just starting riots. The few other things, just real quick on Detroit Golf Club, because I know we want to get into the picks, but a lot of approaches from 150 and in. We haven't seen a lot of that recently. So obviously you want your wedge guys. This is a course that I am fascinated to see how guys putt, because one of the easiest courses on tour in a gazillion metrics, one of the only ones that it was really difficult, one of the top 12 toughest courses in terms of strokes gained putting. but we've heard that they kind of changed the complexes and stuff with the green. So is it actually possible, guys, it's going to be like easier for them? Because if they struggled that much with the greens, maybe are the new ones, I don't know, people more comfortable. I also think you're going to see a lot of 5 to 10 footers this week. Hearing that there's been so much rain, it changes it a little bit. I'm not as strong on this, but typically with new greens, they are really firm for like that first year and a half. And it's just difficult to get a lot of spin on the ball. So if, it dries out a little bit before the event starts, I do think that you're going to see a lot of 5 to 10 footers. And that if players get really aggressive on approaches, they're going to end up, I think, missing the green or end up going over. And then the other thing is just what driving stat did y'all end up going with? Because I ended up doing total driving, but in good drives gained. Or did you still lean into distance and strokes gained off the tee? You did good drives gained.
That's my highest weighted one. I did include strokes gained off the tee as well as driving distance, because I do still think there's a distinct advantage. However, good drives gained is where I put the most emphasis. It's the largest one percentage wise in the model.
Makes sense.
Awesome. Well, like you said, Keith, we're ready to talk about the players. So let's get these clubs twirling and get ready to talk about the picks. I think the books as a whole tell the story this week, right? Like there's no Scotty in the field. There's no clear favorite. Cam Young is the betting favorite pretty much across the board. So maybe there is a clear favorite. I
love Cam, but that's a disgusting number.
Yeah, he's still going off at 950 to 1. Some books you can find him 11 to 1. Or sorry, 9.5 to 1, not 950 to 1. I wish I could get Cam Young at 950 to 1.
No,
but you got him, you got Xander pretty much next up across the board. Some books have got her up as second in line there. And but the book as a whole is pretty obvious. The guys that we expect in this field to be the higher priced players are the higher priced players. We're already not getting we're getting Jackson Koivun at 23 after last week winning on him at 33. But otherwise I would say the books are about what I expected to see. Would anybody feel a little bit differently, or we'd say it's kind of exactly what we were expecting?
The finishing places, I think, are where the juicy odds are this week. There's some incredible like top 5, top 10, top 20 odds. Cam Davis has won here twice with 2 additional top 10s. He's 50 to 1 to top 5, 25 to 1 to top 10, and 11 to 1 to top 20. I mean, just on course history alone, I know he's playing crappy, but goodness gracious.
Yeah, I think the number of players in this field with serious upside that are longer than 150 to 1 to win opens up a lot of 10 to 1 opportunities in the top 10 market. Yep. So I think you're right. Like there is a lot of really good stuff if you're looking in those place markets.
Yeah, and honestly, like I think even in like the made cut markets and miscut markets, there's a lot of opportunity there. Like I get the guy's a YouTuber. Brad Dahlke, formerly of Good.
You and Scott Porter, my co-host on the show before, was asking about it.
The dude is 2 to 1, played his first professional tournament on the DP World Tour a month or so ago. And after the second day was in like 4th in the entire tournament on the DP World Tour and has not played a professional event in 5 years. Like the website was mistakenly listing him as an amateur. Like that's how long it's been since the guy has truly played professional golf. So
you think he had to make that awkward phone call and be like, look, guys, I'm actually a professional.
I'm a pro. Yes. When I played in the Masters, I was an amateur. When I played in the US Open, I was an amateur, but I am not now. Probably had to make that call. So he could, especially so he could get his prize money, because he actually got a pretty decent check from that.
That'd be a bummer. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. You were listed as an amateur. You can't go like that.
But, as we start looking at the board here, first one up for, I didn't check if this was consensus amongst all of us. I know it was at least similar.
Popular guy on tour.
Yep. With Wyndham Clark here, but 22-1 feels like a good number for him. And, for me, he graded out really well in the model. I think overall, he missed the cut in his last start, but I think I'm trusting that he's much more the player that went on a streak of 6 straight events where he won twice and never finished worse than 13th. And that streak honestly goes a little longer if you want to just say, yeah, he's missed the cut twice since March, and both times were at a major. Like, this isn't a major. This is Detroit Golf Club.
And he's won a major
Classic
this year. So,
right.
he's like, I've done my due diligence in the majors as well. Don't be trying to hate on me.
Yeah. You would think his number would be a little bit shorter.
He's the best golfer the last, I would say, 2 months. Like, I think it's fair to say that he's been incredible. This is a course that rewards bombing it off the tee. Check. Good wedge game. Check. His putter can get really hot, especially since he's put in that ugly thing he's using now. And again,
heaviest putter
on tour, uses a lab putter. It's even uglier than that. So I say it with love, but I mean, it's really good odds. Like, it is in this field for him to be getting, like, I would take him over all 3 of the guys. Probably if they were at the same number, like, Cam and Xander and them. Like, I think that right now he's playing the best golf of anybody in this field.
Mike, you feel the same way? Yeah. How we feeling?
Yeah, I have him 7th in my model this week. 1st in birdies or better. 3rd in bentgrass POA putting.
Oh, I like that. You know that.
Not as strong off the tee as I would have expected to see him, and really not strong in a comp that I'm going to use a lot this week, which is Sedgefield, which will be next week. As that is a tighter Donald Ross course that requires some more premier ball striking. I don't know. This doesn't strike me. I'm so convinced that Wyndham plays these golf courses well, where he can bend it left to right as far as he wants. This one might have a few too many trees on it to set up some of those lines, but I still have him 7th in my model. So he's a great play at 22-1.
Certainly is. Next up for us, I'm back in on Koivun, even at this number, just to say I hit the same guy as a back-to-back outright, and I hit him both times. Like, come on. But also on top of that, the guy's top 5 in my model. Yes, it's the same conversation that I had for weeks with Alex Fitzpatrick, right? Like, yes, I know it's not the deepest, realm of data that we have, but the guy's just flat out been a pretty good player since he joined tour. I have him, some of like the key stats that I have for him, 17th in approach, 17th in good drive percentage, top 10 in birdie or better, top 20 in bogey avoidance. And then over his last 16 rounds, he's the 5th best player in the field statistically. So, like,
21 years old.
21 years old. Been a pro for 3 months. Not even.
He's got peach fuzz on his face, for God's sakes. I'm 100% with you. Like, you had me at hello. I immediately was like, what's his number? I wasn't thrilled, but still going to be like, yep, that's an automatic bet. He's special, and special players do special things. And could you imagine the hype train rolling down the tracks if this 21-year-old kid goes back to back? I hope he does, because it's great for the game and everything. It get people talking. And it would be awesome to have, a young phenom to throw in for the next 5-10 years with Rory and Scheffler. And the game of golf is just in such a great place, but why not? Let's throw a little, potential baby goat in the mix.
Why not? Next up on the board, though, a very different player to Jackson Koivun. We had some Russell Henley love, 26-1.
Yeah, I threw this one in the ring here. Look, Russell obviously is going to chart out well anytime you're asking guys to start to dial in their iron play and then back up their game with strong scrambling play around the greens. I have him a little deeper in my model around 20th. Really, the big thing that I think he is getting the boost from is that he has played Donald Ross courses fairly well. The only thing that I struggle with Russell this week is whether or not he is going to make enough birdies. He has shown us that he plays well in tough events. He's obviously won the Arnold Palmer. He's shown up well at U.S. Opens. I believe he played pretty well at the British Open a couple of weeks ago there. Yeah, he was T9 at the Open Championship, 12th at the Travelers. He tends to not chart out well from an opportunities gain, birdie or better percentage.
True.
So that to me is the only thing that's going to hang back, and maybe why I would like Wyndham Clark or Jackson Koivun better at a similar number is just their sheer upside. But, if this does end up in a situation where ball strikers are needed to get around this restored Ross layout, I think Russell is a guy that will be there then by the end of the week.
Or if the number again changes drastically, like if we just see that, this is a harder event, because to your point, like Augusta, another one of the toughest courses on tour, he's, figured out that play. So I'm kind of jealous I didn't think about Russell until literally now, but I like it.
Yeah, where he got a boost in the model a bit for me. In good drive percentage, he's one of those guys that, the driver's not going very far.
Does he ever have a bad drive?
I was going to say the man could probably lay down a blanket and hit it more often than he didn't. But in my comparative course model, about 7 or 8 courses that I have in there to go along with. I have Sedgefield in there. I have Aronimink, TPC Twin Cities that we just saw, a couple other, a few other TPC courses. He ranks second in the model in average finish position over the last 5 years at the comp courses. So like Mike, you said, I think the question with Russell Henley is never that he's going to play well in the tournament. Is he going to play well enough to win? But I still have interest this week, especially in DFS, is like what I feel to be a little bit of a safer play to have in the price range.
Great play in cash where he's at.
Yeah, there's
probably
just
low owned.
Yeah, not too many guys who are super expensive, but he falls right in the tier with like Cantlay, Clark, Koivun, Siwoo. All guys who I think have great profiles for this week and grade out very well, but it's just Russell Henley. You never know how many birdies the man.
He's like a warm blanket, man. He's both safe and he's going to make the cut and probably top 20, but he has a chance to win it as well. Which a lot of those guys, it's more of he could win it, but he also could miss the cut by 6 strokes.
Absolutely. Next up for us, we start to jump a little bit more down the board here. Keith, you had some love for Nicolas Hojgaard.
Yeah, I mean, he's got 2 top 25s here. I know technically it's a different, venue a little bit, but he should at least feel fairly comfortable, I think, with driving the ball and stuff. He has the distance to easily kind of overpower this course, even, with deeper bunkers. A lot of them he'll say bye-bye to. I'm not even going to think about those. Really good putter. Like, I know his strokes game putting is a little down this year, but if you look at like inside 10 feet, 4 to 8 footers, like still top 15 in both of those. And, I would like his wedge numbers to be a little bit better, but now that you have the 2 par 5s that are par 4s, very good long iron player. So like it might be a wash, right? Like where, he might lose some strokes to the field on those shorter approaches, but then gain them on the longer. And he's just due. Like, I think you could make a case that he's the most talented guy now on the PGA Tour without a PGA victory. Like, I just big believer in his game. And this is a good venue for him. I'm going to bet him, as much as I can.
Yeah, Hojgaard is a guy who kind of always pops in the model when it's a course that ball striking does play an importance there. If you can hit it a mile, it helps. He's a guy that always kind of pops in those metrics, and it's just getting the other parts of the game to cooperate. I mean, we've seen the upside this year when they do, right? He was the runner up at Truist. He was the runner up in Houston. He top 3'd at the Phoenix Open. Like, the guy has the skill, and the recent form hasn't been good. And I think that's probably why my model doesn't like him as much. Is just had some flat out bad, he had a stretch of a month where he didn't make a cut essentially. So, can he bounce back from that? Like you said, this is a course that he's top 25 at multiple times. He certainly can figure it out. And if he does, it'll be awesome to watch, because I agree with the sentiment that he's one of the, the more talented players on tour. And, we got to remember, it feels like he's one of those guys that's been around forever. He's 25.
Stupid young.
He feels like a modern day Cameron Davis for this venue.
Oh, come on. Well, I hope you mean
fun.
just from a win section, because it's like he's better than Cam Davis, don't you think?
But just like the pro, just the style of play. Just the
I
style
got you. Yeah.
Just,
Can overpower
and
any golf course and gets hot with a putter sometimes. Look out.
And hey, if he is like him, Cam Davis missed a few cuts and didn't play great before he got the first win here. So just saying. I probably would have been in on Hojgaard if the number was a little bit longer. I just feel like
that's fair.
I feel like the market as a whole has kind of shifted the number up on the Bombers so much here, just because of what we've seen historically, that it makes it a little bit harder, but I don't hate it by any means. Next up is a guy for me who I just got to flat out admit, he didn't model that well, but this is one of those times where I just see a name, see a number, and I click.
I love it.
And that's Akshay at 43-1. I've said it for a while now. Akshay's kind of like, he's that Colin Morikawa type player where if the number starts with a 4, when I can bet him, I'm automatically interested. And the recent numbers, not great. I'll admit it. Anybody with eyes can see it. And he doesn't model out well. But where I have hope with Akshay, when I look at some of the historical stats, his year-long profiles look pretty good for what we need. And then we look at his history here. He's played pretty well. The irons have been good. The driver's typically been good here. He's been solid off the tees, accurate and long. So he's played well here from that perspective. What's tended to lack behind for him has been the putter. And he is a far superior putter in 2026 than he has been at any other stage of his career. And
when you start cheating, that typically happens. But you're right. I'm kidding.
I would like to make an argument that you should be allowed to anchor if arm lock is legal. I'll die on that hill. And
I'm good with all of it. I don't care if you want to use the Caddyshack putter. Like, come on, let's get interesting.
Exactly. But the recent overall performances haven't been great. That said, he T5 at the Travelers, had a top 20 finish at the US Open. And, he's not having the stretch of incredible golf that he had earlier in the year. But, I mean, the guy he's been a runner-up here. He's got the upside to win at this course. And I think if the putting remains the strength that it's been, and I think a little bit of an under-talked about part of his game that's been a lot more consistent too is just his wedge play. He's been consistently gaining with the wedges. And I'm just looking at it as if the venue plays relatively similar to how it has in the past, even with the changes, he's got the firepower to win. And I'm just going to trust that the improvements in the short game are one of the things that can separate a guy here.
Proves the greens are real too, to me, to your point that like he's so much better with his wedges. That is a guy that no longer feel like he has to chip it close every time to like save par. He's comfortable in like, I'm just going to hit the safe shot and then I'll go make the freaking putt, which is great. Love you trusting your gut more. I know you're, great at obviously modeling out these things, but sometimes I think that you gotta trust
Sometimes
your gut.
you just get a feeling and you just have to
100%.
I just got to go with it.
For form, don't forget they're about to play for a crap load of money. So these guys are motivated to like, I need to get the game in gear. This is the last chance for most of the big names, including, Bhatia. So I'm not really worried if they haven't been playing great. It's been a road stretch. You've had the US Open, 2 tournaments overseas. Like, recent form is not as big of a deal if they're a player with a pedigree.
Yep, certainly agree. And I went with my gut feeling in my DFS article last week with Gary Woodland, and that worked out for me. And he modeled arguably worse than Akshay does this week in that event. So it is what it is. I'm sticking to it. Next up is a guy that I'm actually very glad that you are interested in, Mike, because Davis Thompson 61-1 on DraftKings. He was a guy that modeled like he's a top 10 player in my model, but I just like mentally there's a block there. So help me get past it a little bit.
Well, I think he's looking great on paper. Now, first of all, I think earlier this week, this number was up at 80 and has come down quite a bit, unless I misread this when I put my original notes together, but it was, he was much higher. But I think this is still okay. I think Davis Thompson, here's a couple things that I like this week. First of all, I have him second in the field in scoring opportunities. I have him 14th in the field in birdies or better, and I have him 12th in the field in wedge play over the last 30 rounds, as well as 10th in the field in my comp at Sedgefield. So I like his overall profile coming into this week. He's a birdie machine, and he has a guy that can play. So that if you can play well at the Amex and compete there, we know that you can make birdies. And I think that is, and he's obviously played well at the John Deere too. He's absolutely flushing it with his irons right now. And I think that's just going to be the interesting thing is, Davis hits the ball plenty far. He can get a little sideways with the driver at times. And he's not a great putter, but he is a streaky putter. And that's the thing is I have a couple of guys we're going to get to a couple of other players that fit this profile, but Davis has, his last 25 starts, he has gained strokes putting 7 times. But when he does, this is almost certainly a 5, 6, 7 strokes gained week for him on the greens. And so we're looking for flashing on the greens with a guy who is lighting up his irons right now. And we know hits as far. He's got the stature of Scotty Scheffler. I think he had a nice outcome last week at the 3M, finished T7, played great on Saturday. And I have him second in my model overall. So I think 61 is still a good number here. 80 was awesome, but 60 to 1 is still a good number.
Yeah, it did open much closer to that 80 number. Even just on DraftKings, 78 to 1 was the opening number. So it's pretty drastically changed in just a 48-hour span.
That means money has been moving to him.
Yeah. And I get it, right? Like
Mike loading up.
Is all Mike. Mike actually is the one who
he moved the line by himself.
Drove down to Iowa last night, took care of that.
But yeah, just looking at the profile, as I'm scrolling through, it's there's a lot of green. Nothing is peaking for me. And then I get to it. And I consider the scoring conditions to be easy here. And I think it's very well noted that some players, when you give them a course that they should be able to score on, and everybody should be able to score on, they're just not as good at it. They're going to play their game. In his career, I did full career stats for every single player in the field here.
Freaking maniac.
And he is second in strokes gained total on easy scoring conditions.
Who was first?
That's a great question, actually. It was Cam Young.
Ooh, Scott's gonna. Damn it! I don't like hearing that.
Yeah, but
he's like, Keith, you're really gonna say somebody other than me is the best player in this field? You moron! Of course, he's gonna win by 5.
It happens, and you know what? This is a guy I was in on a lot earlier this year, both for DFS and for these placement plays. I've been off for a while, but I saw the name in the spreadsheet, on the document, in the text, and I just had to write it. Pierceson Coody, 100 to 1. Tell me about it. Convince me to get back in.
Did you have him too, Mike?
No, but last week I did not need him to shoot 86 on Friday or whatever he ended up shooting. So I'm going to tune out for this one.
Totally get it. I understand it. I actually think, again, this event's going to play tougher, and it's not going to be a birdie fest. But if it is, Coody's weird, man. He is somebody that goes nuclear. He either plays bad or he typically plays really good. And this is just a venue that, to me, it fits his game. He can hit it a mile. Streaky putt, again, looking for a spike putting week. But he makes a ton of birdies. He's top 10 on tour. And birdie, I believe both percentage and birdies made this season. So I'm just taking a flyer. He's 100 to 1. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's one of those deals where that's it. The course is still a scoring fest. Why not?
The man's got 2 types of greens that he can putt on, and it's bent grass and Poa.
What
That's what we
about
got
when
this
they're
week.
mixed together?
20th in the model for me in putting.
Is he really?
Yeah. It's good, right? Like, I mean, this is clearly a guy with a
I
lot
do
of
love hearing
talent.
that.
Another young guy, just 26 years old. Dude's built like me, basically. We're like almost the exact same height and weight. He's clearly got a lot more ball speed than I do, and the man can absolutely
Doesn't have as
crush
good
a
a hair
driver.
though. So
Most people don't, to be fair. Humble brag, not humble brag. I'm gonna brag about my hair. But yeah, he's certainly a better player in certain situations, and he's streaky. Like he's your typical young streaky player, but maybe he could kind of be in that Cam Davis mold too that we were talking about, where this is just a course that lets him put it together for a week.
Yep.
So I don't hate it whatsoever. And you know what I absolutely don't hate? When Mike Kosick gets a chance to talk about Tom freaking Hoge.
I'm jealous because he's constantly in my articles and betting cheat sheets because it's disrespectful the odds he gets most weeks.
It is disrespectful. First of all, it's in my contract at FSAN and in between media that I can mention Tom Hoge once a month, and I think it's been 2 months since we get into the heart of the PGA Tour schedule.
He was fined.
Well, and it's not Tom Hoge season, but this is not let's be honest, this is not a Tom Hoge golf course. The thing that Tom can do really well is he can really stripe his irons, and sometimes he goes on these runs. I just talked about Davis Thompson and being a guy that can flash with his putter, and I think Tom, he's got the win at Pebble Beach, and he's got the 62 at TPC Sawgrass, and so he's put himself on the map, and obviously he's near and dear to my heart. He's a champion at Detroit Country Club, which I'm going to get you guys familiar with the Pine to Palm Golf Tournament in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. But he is a champion there back when he was just a young buck smacking the golf ball 330 around this tiny golf course. But I have him third in my model this week, and it's because he's number 1 in wedge play, and he's number 1 in opportunities gained.
God, I was hoping you're going to say number 1 in my heart, but that's okay.
He is number 1 in my heart. 9th in birdies are better, and I think that's like you need a birdie fest, and he's a guy. He's the difference between like Russell Henley. Russell Henley can stripe the ball all over the golf course and not make enough birdies to compete. Tom, we're looking for a 475 to 1, or just how about this 20 to 1 in a top 10 market on a guy that, like Davis Thompson, when he putts well, which is like once every 5 events, is going to be +5, +6, +7 strokes.
You're going to look at the leaderboard like Saturday or Sunday, and he is right there.
It's just not. This is not a golf course that is certainly not in the previous layout of this golf course that I would want to be playing him. He doesn't hit the ball far off the tee, and he doesn't hit it particularly straight. But he's really hit his irons well this year. He hasn't putted great. I am hoping that we get a flash week at 475 to 1 or 20 to 1 in top 10. Tommy's my guy, and I'm contractually obligated to find a spot for him once a month. Sedgefield's not a bad spot for him either. So one of these next 2 weeks, go find Tom Hoge.
Love learning this about Mike.
Big Tom Hoge guy. But I mean,
he's a Hoge guy.
There's reasons to be intrigued, right? Like over his last 8 rounds, legitimately good strokes gain approach and strokes gain ball striking numbers. Driver accuracy ticked up 4 to 5% from like the last 50 rounds. There's things trending in the right direction for Hoge. And I mean, like, guys, we're talking about a PGA Tour where Brian Campbell has won multiple times. Like anything,
Tom Hoge's a much better golfer than Brian Campbell.
That's my
he's
point.
Making, but
that's
that's what he's saying.
And Brian Campbell profiled terribly for both of those times that he won.
When does the statute of limitations run on a Brian Campbell? Because I've used that for like 2 years.
2 years.
I'm like, anything can happen. Brian Campbell won these golf tournaments. And eventually we are going to stop saying that because he will be nothing.
I'll never forget the poke guider thing. Cause I mean, it's the first golf tournament I've ever watched where a guy was 75 to 100 yards in front of another dude on every hole. It was like, what am I watching here? Like, what is going on? And the dude that hit shorter won.
Hey
man.
Is this our last pick? Can I round out with the story? Do we have anyone else here? No one longer than 475 to 1.
No,
my wife my wife
What's
loves
wrong with
telling this story, right? Like you can tell I have this Minnesota, North Dakota hotbed of golf talent. But when she'll say 12 or 13 years old, she won this junior tournament on a par 3 course in northern Minnesota. And the next year, again, there's nothing special there that she was like 12 years old. The next year, they pitted the girls champion versus the boys champion in like a showcase showdown on the course the next year. The boys champion won none other than Tom Hoge, who was like a 9-year-old.
Beat her brains in?
Oh, 5 and 4 on 9 holes. She'll tell you. She's she was like, he was unbelievable. And I don't know why we did that. It made no sense. But he was a 9-year-old that smoked.
It's like, hey, congrats on your accomplishment. Now go get your ass kicked just because we don't really like women. Go ahead.
Future PGA Tour star. So there's a lot of Tom Hoge crossover.
You said he was 9 too?
It was something like that. Yeah. This
That's
is
awesome.
obviously before I knew her, but
right. Yeah, no. Yeah.
I love the stories. And before we close out the show fully this week, do want to just bring up one other thing that we do love, and that's our friends over at FantasySpin.
Spin, pick, win.
For those of you who are still listeners to this show and somehow unfamiliar with FantasySpin, if you're not familiar, FantasySpin is a gamified DFS experience that allows you to spin your lineups every single week, get a chance to get some real money. It is just like playing DFS on any other platform, except for the fact that it performs like a slot machine. It combines the skill of drafting a DFS lineup with the captivating experience that you get like none other. You can enter the contest and spin your DFS lineups for a chance to win big. Whether you're playing for free or for cash, FantasySpin has you covered. Make sure to check out the link in the episode description and use promo code IBTGolf and deposit at least $10 and then play in one tournament. And you will get $30 in bonus play. Sports the program directly over here. So make sure you check out FantasySpin. Let's make some noise for the rest of the PGA Tour season.
I don't know about the whole program, more just Jake Perry's annuity fund is what it helps by entering these contests. Dude is unbelievable at this.
If I gotta be the FantasySpin guy, I'll be the FantasySpin guy.
Hey, I'm just jealous, so haters gonna hate.
I think that is a great way to cap this episode off. So guys, thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate every single one of you. Again, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure to check out the Golf Family, as well as everything else that we bring to you over here with the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. For Mike Kosick and Keith Flemming, I'm Jake Parry, and we will see you all at our next tee time.